Hi guys. If someone in the chat can tell me if you can hear me and if you can see my screen. Okay, perfect. We're just gonna wait for more people to join before we start with the AMS revision today. Drop some W's if you're excited for the stream. Guys, if someone can share on the group that we're live right now so everyone can join, so we can start as soon as possible. W's in the chat. Okay guys, 2 minutes and we're gonna start. Okay? Please Zena Fakani, we're waiting for the rest to join so we can start. Okay, so we're just gonna start. Or let's just give it 1 more minute. 1 more minute for everyone. And guys, as again, if you have any questions while I'm solving the quiz, leave a comment in the chat down below, okay? Okay, yalla, I'm gonna start right now. So let's begin. First question, which of the following are structural features that make capillaries well adapted to perform their function? Remember we said at the capillaries, what do we have? We have exchange. So it's the same concept as the alveoli in the respiratory system. So of course, for us to have a quick exchange, we're not gonna have a thick wall, we're gonna have a thin wall. Okay, so that's why the first one is wrong. May have large pores and gaps in their walls which further facilitate. Okay, they don't have strong and thick elastic tissue walls. That's in arteries. I think they do have large pores and gaps to allow to facilitate exchange of materials. And also, they are only wide enough to let... Okay, that's not true. I think those two are the answers. If someone can confirm in the chat below. Okay, Yasmin said it's correct. We move on. Okay, which of the following are structural adaptations that facilitate blood flow in veins? Okay, remember, what did we say veins have? Veins have valves, okay? And we said they're thinner than arteries because they don't... Also the third one. Judy says. Okay, which one is the third one? This one? Okay, perfect. So now about veins. Okay, the first one is wrong. Of course, they're not one cell thick. Arteries are one cell thick. They do have a larger lumen, okay? And they also have pocket-shaped valves that prevent backflow. If it's also right, please drop W's in the chat. If anyone could confirm so we can move faster. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jury. Okay, we have a piece of dialysis tubing, selectively permeable, okay? So selectively permeable means it doesn't allow everything to pass through. It selects some stuff to pass through and some not. Okay. Against large molecules. So it does not let large molecules to easily pass through. And then they're telling us it is inserted in a test tube containing dilute iodine solution. So what do we expect? Storage, is it large or small? Who can help me in the chat? Large, okay. So what do we expect? So we said selectively permeable, only allowing small sizes to pass through, okay? If their size is smaller than the size of the pores. So at the start of the experiment, the starch solution, what color will it have? Colorless, perfect. And the iodine solution? Is going to be yellow brown, perfect. Because why is it yellow brown? Because that's the color of iodine. When it reacts with starch, or when starch is present, it turns into blue black, and we've taken that before. So the starch solution turns. What does the starch solution turn? It turns into blue black, right? And iodine molecules are okay. And the iodine molecules are smaller. That's why they're able to pass through, while the iodine solution outside. Oh, yellow brown again? Wait, let's read it. The starch solution turns yellow brown. Iodine molecules are small, so thus they diffuse through the pores to interact with the starch molecules. The iodine solution outside stays yellow brown and too large. But shouldn't this one, the starch solution, turn into blue black? What do you guys think? Anyone can answer in the chat, please, guys. Okay, so it's gonna turn blue black, okay? Because we said the ideal molecules. Yes, exactly. So just a small explanation. It's because the ideal molecules are small, so they're able to pass through the selective membrane, and when starch is present with iodine, the solution turns into blue-black, while the iodine solution will remain yellow-brown, which is its original color. Why? Because the starch that are in the dialysis tubing are too large to pass through, so there's no starch in the iodine solution, so it will remain yellow-brown. Okay, this is also previous material. I'm gonna skip the previous material for now. If you guys want me to do it, just let me know down below. Even this is just movement, so I'm gonna skip them for now to focus on the circulatory system. Okay, EDU tells us to do it. I'm gonna leave them till the end. Okay, let's just focus on the year 2 material. If we have time at the end, I'll do the year 1, okay? So choose the correct answer. Factors increase or decrease the rate of diffusion. Of course, if we have a larger surface area, we're going to increase the rate of diffusion. A smaller distance, of course, increases the rate of diffusion because shorter distance, less time needed. A larger size of transported, it will decrease, okay? Always remember, small particles can easily pass through. A lower temperature, of course, it will decrease. Why will it decrease? Because they have less kinetic energy. A higher pressure increases the rate of diffusion because it always goes from a higher pressure into a lower pressure. Okay? Okay, those are also about the modes of transport. I'm just gonna skip them for now, okay? They're not that, like, they're easier than the circulatory system, okay? Okay, let's go here. So remember, renal is related to what? To the kidneys, okay? Hepatic is related to the liver. Make sure you know the two words, okay? So renal is kidneys, hepatic is liver. So we have renal artery. Remember, artery carries blood away from the blood, okay? Away from the heart. Artery, away from the heart. And remember, we said arteries, most of them carry oxygenated blood, except what? Who's gonna tell me in the chat which artery does not carry oxygenated blood? Thank you, Ryan. I love you too. Exactly. Pulmonary artery does not carry oxygenated blood. Perfect, guys. So renal artery is gonna carry oxygenated blood to the kidneys, while renal vein, remember, veins carry blood back to the heart. So it carries deoxygenated blood from the kidneys to the heart. Aorta is the largest artery, okay, and it has the highest pressure. So it pumps. Why does it have the highest pressure? Because it pumps blood to the entire body, okay. So it carries oxygenated blood from the heart, okay. Vena cava carries deoxygenated blood to the heart, while pulmonary artery, remember we said pulmonary artery, as you guys said, it carries deoxygenated blood to the lungs, while pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. Which one vein is oxygenated? Why is it wrong? Let's just move on. If there's something wrong, let me know down below, okay? Okay, now they're asking us about atrial systole or ventricular systole. Okay, let's go back to number 14 to explain. Okay. No, Ryan, we said veins carry deoxygenated blood. Only one vein carries oxygenated blood. Who's gonna tell Ryan which vein carries oxygenated blood? Pulmonary vein, exactly. Okay, Anas, I'll re-explain right now. So I was telling them before, renal refers to what? To the kidneys. While if they get you in the exam hepatic, it refers to the liver. Okay, that's the first thing you have to know. The second thing we spoke about, arteries. What do arteries carry? Usually oxygenated blood. We only have one exception, which is the pulmonary arteries. And we also said arteries, it starts with an A. So think about it. Artery A, it carries blood away from the heart. Okay, so A for away, A for artery. Now veins. Veins carry deoxygenated blood. Except we have one exception, which is what? Which is the pulmonary vein. Okay, that's the only vein that carries oxygenated blood instead of deoxygenated blood. And veins carry blood towards the heart. Okay? So arteries away, veins towards the heart. If you guys all understood the question, spam W's in the chat. Okay. So now we're going to look at atrial systole and ventricular systole. Remember, I spoke about two definitions in my video. Diastole and systole. Okay? Diastole was what? Was the resting. Systole was the contraction. Okay? So, the left and right ventricles contract simultaneously to pump blood into the aorta and pulmonary veins respectively. So when the ventricles are contracting, of course, it's going to be ventricular systole. The atria contract to squeeze. So if the atria are contracting, it's going to be atrial systole. Okay? The semilunar valves are closed while the atrioventricular valves are open. Remember, the atrioventricular valves, what do they separate from its name? Atrioventricular, it separates the atria from the ventricle. Okay? So, they're going to be open when the atria are contracting, pushing blood, because what happens in atrial systole? We push blood from the atria into the ventricle. So this is going to be during atrial systole, while ventricular systole is going to be this in ventricular systole, the semilunar valves will be open while the atrioventricular valves will be closed. For this chapter, I don't have notes on my iPad like the previous videos. It's just everything on the board is basically my notes. Okay, drag and drop the correct answers. We're talking about the thickness of the heart wall muscles, okay? So of course, what did we say? We said the left side pumps blood into our entire body. So of course, our left side of our heart is going to have more muscle. So the walls of the ventricles okay, let's go back to number 15. So number 15, let me draw it for you guys. Okay. Say this is our heart. This is the septum. We have here, and then we have another valve here. Okay, so this is not going to be a perfect drawing, but I'm trying my best. Okay. So in purple is the aorta. Okay. This is the septum. And this is the left atrium. This is my left ventricle. This is right ventricle. And this is right atrium. And this is my pulmonary artery. Okay? So this is just a quick revision for all of you about the heart flow and the cardiac cycle. So in the beginning, we have atrial diastole. That's the first stage of the cardiac cycle. What happens in atrial diastole? Blood. Okay, so I'm gonna put blood in blue because it's deoxygenated, just for a reference. That's not how blood actually is, just for you guys to be able to see it. Okay? So basically, we have blood flowing into our right atrium. From where? From the vena cava. Okay? Either from both the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. Okay? So basically, blood is filling in here, and also blood is filling in here. From where? From the pulmonary vein. Okay? It's bringing oxygenated blood into the left atrium. That's in atrial diastole. Then, what will happen? We will have contraction of our atria. So now we're in stage 2, which is atrial systole. So we have contraction. Okay, the black lines are as if the atria are contracting, they're squeezing. Of course, the left side is the oxygenated blood and the right side is the deoxygenated blood. Okay, make sure you know the difference, and that's why you have a septum in the middle, as I mentioned in my video. The septum separates. It's important to have a septum to separate the oxygenated blood from the deoxygenated blood. Okay? So now we're in phase 2, which is atrial systole. So we have contraction of the atria. What will happen if you have contraction of the atria? So its volume is going to decrease because it's contracting, it's getting smaller. So what will happen to the pressure? We're going to have a higher pressure than the ventricles. So atrial pressure is higher than ventricular pressure. So what will happen? The valve right here. Okay? So here on the left side, we have the bicuspid valve, which is a type of atrioventricular. This will open while this will close. And the same thing over here. The atrioventricular valve will open while the semilunar valve will close. That's in atrial systole. Then the pressure in the left ventricle will be higher than the pressure in the atria. So what will happen? The atrioventricular valve will close while the semilunar valve now will open. Okay? So it's basically the reverse in ventricular systole. Now we have our ventricles contracting. So we have a higher pressure in our ventricles. So our semilunar valves will open up while our atrioventricular, which are here and here, here and here, will shut down. Okay, that's the phases of a cardiac cycle. If you all understood it, you guys know what to do. Throw some W's in the chat. Okay, we have a question. Can you talk about the path that the blood goes through? Okay, we just spoke about it right now here. We said we receive deoxygenated blood from our vena cava into the right atrium, and then we have atrial, the phases of atrial diastole, and then atrial systole, and then ventricular systole, which we just spoke about now. Okay? Okay, perfect. I'm seeing some W's in the chat. What about the rest? Everyone is fine with it? Okay, from the lungs to the heart. Okay, here. So here you have okay. Here you have, what do you have here? Pulmonary artery, we said. The pulmonary artery takes deoxygenated blood where to? So this is gonna go to the lungs. Okay? Where it's going to get oxygenated, and then from the lungs you have the pulmonary vein, which will carry the oxygenated blood into the left atrium. Okay? Okay, W's in the chat. Perfect. So we said that the left side pumps blood to our entire body. So of course, we're going to have a thicker. So the walls of the ventricles are thicker than those of the atria. Why? Because of this. While the wall of the left ventricle is thicker than that of the right ventricle. Wait. Okay, exactly. Oh no, wait. I switched them by mistake. My bad. Okay, can someone confirm if this is right? Okay, perfect. Okay, during physical activity, the heart beats faster in order to supply the... Who's gonna help me with this? I think it's going to be supply the skeletal muscles. If someone can confirm. Skeletal muscles, perfect. So skeletal muscles and eliminate carbon dioxide produced by cellular respiration and help dissipate excess heat. Perfect. Okay, this is the phases of cardiac cycle. I explained it to you guys already. So let's just look at the question now. The muscles of the heart relax and blood flows from the vena cava and the pulmonary vein into the two atria, and the semilunar valves are closed while the atrioventricular are open. We said this is, remember, whenever you see heart, muscles of the heart are relaxed, it's going to be diastole. Okay? Systole is contraction, diastole is relaxation. Dissipate heat means release heat. Okay? Dissipate just means releases. Okay. I'm not going to type each one because I think we know them already. I'm just going to say them. So what receives blood from the vena cava? We said it's the right atrium. Which one, Omar? Number 18? Number 18? No, number 17. 17 and 18? Okay, number 18 just? Okay, number 18. Okay, so right here, didn't we speak about the three phases? Okay, look, let's do something else. I'm gonna explain the cardiac cycle again and the blood flow again, okay? So everyone can benefit from it. Just let me try to draw the heart in a nice way. Okay. So I think this is the best way in order to explain it. Let me know what you guys think, if this is better also. But I think that's the best way. So let's label the heart. So we have here the aorta, we have here the left atrium, we have here the left ventricle, we have here the right ventricle, we have here the right atrium, and over here, I'm just gonna abbreviate, it's going to be pulmonary artery, okay? And I'm also gonna draw up here the lungs, okay? One going to the lungs and one going away from the lungs. So the one going away from the lungs is going to be our pulmonary vein, and of course the one going towards the lungs is going to be our pulmonary artery. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about how blood flows and the cardiac cycle. So please make sure you're paying attention, because if you understand this, you're going to know everything about the heart. You don't need to know anything else, okay? So how does blood flow start? So blue, okay, watch out. Blue is going to be for deoxygenated, while I'm gonna represent the red with oxygenated blood. Okay? So look what happens. So we have the vena cava. Okay, it's split into two parts. We have a superior one and we have an inferior one. Superior carries deoxygenated blood. Remember, deoxygenated from the upper part of our body, while the inferior vena cava transports oxygenated blood from where? From the lower half of our body. That's why it's called inferior, so lower half, superior, upper half. Okay? So we're going to have deoxygenated blood entering our right atrium. And now pay attention. Now I'm talking about diastole. Okay, so no contraction of our heart muscle. They're all relaxed. So while we have deoxygenated blood entering our right atrium, we have oxygenated blood entering where? Our left atrium from the pulmonary vein. Now we're still in diastole. So no contraction happened till now. Then what's going to happen? The next phase is going to be atrial diastole. Atrial systole, sorry. So atrial systole. What do we say about systole? Systole is the contraction. Atrial systole, so contraction of the atria. So again, I'm gonna show it in gray. We have contraction. So they're squeezing. Contraction. Contraction. And just a small note, in diastole, the atrioventricular valves are open while the semilunar valves are closed. Okay, so those are open. Our atrioventricular valves are open while our semilunar valves are closed. That's in diastole. Now also in atrial systole, we're going to have contraction of our atria. So we're going to push blood from the atrium into the ventricle, and also same thing on the other side. Okay, why does blood flow from the atria to the ventricle? Because while we're contracting the atria, we have here a high pressure. Okay, in both atria we have a higher pressure than in the ventricles. That's why blood will flow from the atria into the ventricles. Okay, that's in atrial systole. Now, our last phase of the cardiac cycle and basically the blood flow, they're both together. We have ventricular systole. Again, systole is contraction. Ventricular systole, so we're contracting the ventricles. So let me erase this. Okay. Now, what do we have? We said our ventricles are contracting. So we already had some blood here. We have on the right side, we have deoxygenated blood. Okay, we have deoxygenated blood here on the right side. On the left side, we have oxygenated blood. Now we're in ventricular systole, so our ventricles are contracting. When they're contracting, we're having a higher pressure in our ventricles than in the pulmonary artery, than in the aorta. But remember, what was the role of the valves? The role of the valves is to prevent backflow of the blood. So what do you expect? I want blood to flow from the ventricle into the aorta. I want blood to flow from the right ventricle into the pulmonary artery. So my semilunar valves are going to be open, while my atrioventricular valves are now going to be closed. Why will they be closed? Because I don't want blood to go in the opposite direction. Okay, so my atrioventricular valves are closed in ventricular systole, while my semilunar valves are open. So blood will flow from the left ventricle into the aorta, from the aorta where? Into the entire body. Okay, while on the right side of our heart, the right ventricle into the pulmonary artery, it's going to go where? Into the lungs, where we're going to have gas exchange, which we spoke already about in the respiratory system. It's going to get oxygenated, and then it's going to go back to the heart through the pulmonary vein. That's why the left side of the heart, this is a layer of muscle, okay? The left side of the heart is thicker than the right side of the heart. Why is that? Because think about it. The left side is pumping blood to our entire body. So all of our body is getting blood because of the aorta. So of course the left side will have a higher pressure. To be able to withstand this high pressure, it's going to have a thick elastic wall. While on the right side is pumping blood where to? It's only pumping it to the lungs, so only to one organ. So can you imagine the right side is only pumping to one organ, so it does not need a thick muscular layer because there is no high pressure in comparison to the left side of the heart. Okay? So we spoke about the blood flow and the cardiac cycle. Did you all understand? If you all understood, you guys already know what to do. Some W's in the chat. I hope I made it clear to everyone through this explanation. Does anyone have any question what I just talked about, the cardiac cycle and the blood flow? They're both very important concepts, but once you understand them, they become super easy. Okay, perfect. We're already getting some W's in the chat. What about the rest? Are the rest all good with it? Can we move back to the quiz? You're welcome. Okay, let's go back to the quiz then. So, I think, Omar, do you understand now number 18? Can we move on from number 18? Okay, even this is super easy now. It has to be super easy for you guys. So it receives blood from the vena cava, we said is the right atrium. Pumps blood into the aorta, we said is the left ventricle. Pumps blood into the right ventricle, it's the right atrium. Pumps blood into the left ventricle, it's going to be the left atrium. Pumps blood into the pulmonary artery, it's going to be the right ventricle. Receives blood from the pulmonary vein, it's going to be the left atrium. Okay? Okay, we said pulmonary valve and aortic valve are both called semilunar valves. They separate. Okay, so it's at the base of the pulmonary artery. That's why it gets its name, pulmonary valve at the base of the pulmonary artery. Aortic valve, that's why it gets its name, aortic, because it's at the base of the aorta. Tricuspid, no, it's on the right side, while bicuspid is on the left side. Okay, the blood vessels that carry blood from the heart to the body tissues. So they're carrying blood away from the heart. Away from the heart means we have arteries. Okay? They branch into narrower blood vessels called arterioles that branch further into tiny blood vessels called capillaries. Okay guys, I drew it out in the video. I put the list of it, so make sure to watch it. These converge into venules, and then at the end we have veins. Okay, we spelled this wrong. Venules. Okay, during ventricular systole. So what's going to happen to the ventricles? They're going to contract, and the left ventricle pumps blood into the aorta, while the right pumps into the pulmonary artery. The semilunar valves are forced to open, while the atrioventricular are forced to close to prevent backflow of the blood. Remember, the function of the valves is what? Is always to prevent backflow of blood. Thickness of wall, of course, it's going to be thickest in arteries because of the high pressure. Capillaries are one cell thick to ease exchange. Amount of elastic fibers, of course, high in arteries, low in veins, and none in capillaries. The lumen, of course, of the vein is larger. It's the largest. For capillaries, it's a bit smaller than the veins. Okay? Presence of valves. We don't have valves in arteries. We just have valves in veins. Okay? And I've explained already before why we need valves in veins. If anyone would like to type in the chat, maybe for your other people who are watching to know why, because I've already mentioned it in the video, but help the others out and let us know down why we need valves and veins. Relative blood pressure, of course, it's highest in the arteries and then low in the veins. Function, carries blood away. Remember, A artery, A away from the heart. Veins carry blood to the heart. Site of exchange is for capillaries. Okay, this is just the labeling of the heart. Okay, I've already labeled it here, so I'm just gonna skip it, but make sure you know the labeling of the heart. Okay, pacemaker is our SA node. Okay, so during physical activity, more carbon dioxide gas is released, remember, because of cellular respiration. Okay, carbon dioxide. Which last one? Can you say the number on the chat, please? Increased rate of cellular respiration, as we said. And what will happen to our blood pH? This causes a drop in blood pH. The brain senses this and sends the pacemaker of the heart. Someone make sure of Shishmo. Okay, 24. It's just the labeling of the heart. Okay? So we already spoke about it here. It's the same image here. Pulmonary vein into the left atrium. And then you have the left ventricle. Then you have the aorta. This is your septum that separates the oxygenated side of the blood, which is this, from the deoxygenated side, which is this. And then you have the vena cava on the right side, right atrium, right ventricle, and then pulmonary artery. Okay, so here it's the same thing too. You have 9 is the septum, okay, and everything else. Okay, this is the pathway of the blood. I've already explained it. If someone wants me to do it, let me know. But other than that, we've already talked about it in this very quick explanation. Okay, this explanation, if you know it really well, you'll be able to solve everything in the exam tomorrow. So if you guys want me at the end to repeat it, I don't mind repeating it. That's why I'm gonna go a bit quicker with the quiz. Okay, please do 26. Okay, we'll do 26. So we go from the left ventricle into the aorta. From the aorta, we go to the body organs. Okay? Then, from our body organs, they're gonna use up the oxygen because of cellular respiration. And then they're going to send back the deoxygenated blood through the vena cava back to the heart. The vena cava will drop it into the right atrium. Right atrium will send it to the right ventricle. Right ventricle will send it to the pulmonary artery and then to the lungs, where we can reoxygenate the blood because that's where gas exchange occurs. And then the lungs are going, pulmonary vein is going to branch from the lungs into the left atrium. Okay, so name each of the following events. The sequence of events that occurs during each heartbeat is a cardiac cycle. Muscles relax Okay, whenever you see muscles relax, it's going to be diastole. Contraction of the atria, atriosystole. Contraction of the ventricles, ventricular systole. Okay, we've already did another question about this, so I'm just gonna skip it. If you guys have questions about it, let me know. And also, this is the same thing as I spoke about in the cardiac cycle: atrial systole, diastole, and ventricular systole, and what happens to the valves. Okay, if anyone wants explanation, let me know, but I'm just gonna skip through them now so we can find if there's something a bit harder to do. Okay, one second, something lagged. Okay, we're having a bit of technical problems. Okay, we said we're gonna skip this and this. Okay, I don't know why I can't go to number 30. Whenever I reach number 30, hold on a moment. Okay, now it worked. So we said tricuspid valve is on the right side. It prevents backflow of the blood from the right ventricle to the right atrium. Aortic on the left side, so aorta and left ventricle. Pulmonary from the pulmonary artery and right ventricle, while bicuspid is from the left ventricle back into the left atrium, And those are just the labeling. So it's really important, guys. Really important. I'm gonna go back to this. It's really important you know everything about this diagram. The valves, their locations. When do they open? When do they close? The cardiac cycle, okay? That the left side carries oxygenated blood. That the right side carries deoxygenated blood, okay? Okay, what's the structure? We spoke about it. This is a capillary bed. Okay, remember? We said that's where not gas exchange, that's where we're going to have exchange of nutrients. So they can be closed or open. Cuffs of smooth muscles surround the base. Now, if these sphincters, the blood flow into the capillaries will be shut off, that's when they contract. That's in this diagram, in the second diagram. So those sphincters, as you see them, they're going to contract, okay? Once they contract, it's not going to flow into the capillary bed, it's going to flow through a shunt. That's when our blood doesn't have nutrients, okay? From the artery directly to the venule. So it's going to be arterial to the venule. Someone make sure of this. If these sphincters relax, however, the structure will be flooded with blood like in the first diagram. Okay? Choose the picture in the digestive tract between meals. So I don't know if they mean when we're deprived of nutrients or after a meal. So if anyone can confirm, because if it's right after a meal, it's going to be this one, because we're going to want the exchange of nutrients. However, if we haven't had a meal for a long time, there's no nutrients to be exchanged, so it's going to be this one. Okay, so they mean between meals when we don't have nutrients, so it's going to be the second one on the left. Okay, perfect. Wait, on the left or on the right? Do you mean right that it's correct, or? I think you meant right as in right? Okay, yeah, it's right. Okay, perfect. Name the strong muscular wall that separates. What did we say separates? Is going to be the septum. Okay. Keeping oxygenated and deoxygenated unmixed in the heart allows oxygen to be transported efficiently. Ventricles, we said, have thicker walls. Atria have thinner. Ventricles, all body organs, while atria pump to lower heart chambers, which are the ventricles basically. So right to the lungs, left has thicker walls and pumps blood to all body organs. Okay, so who's gonna help me with this? How do I know which blood vessel this is? Of course, it's going to be a vein. Why a vein? Because they have valves. Okay, so this is gonna be veins. Correct blood flow. Of course, I want the flood of blow to be unidirectional. That's the whole purpose of valves. I don't want it to be bidirectional. So I don't want blood to flow downwards. Of course, I want it to flow back to the heart, not away from the heart. So we're going to choose the second one. Perfect, Omar, well done. Okay, prevents backflow from the pulmonary artery into the right ventricle, pulmonary valve. The other one, aorta, left ventricle, is going to be aortic valve. Okay, the questions we skipped, I've spoke about them here. Okay. So I don't think we need to go back to them. I'm not gonna submit the quiz because we're gonna get mistakes because of we didn't solve questions. If there's no questions about the cardiac cycle, most important, guys, is you know this diagram, okay? If you know this diagram and the valves and the location and everything, you'll be good. So if you don't understand now, I don't mind repeating it one last time. But however, also you can watch it on my video. I've explained it. I've tried my best to draw the diagram on the board and explain the whole concept of the blood flow and the cardiac cycle. So if you guys all understood it, if you didn't, let me know so I can explain it now before we end. Or just watch the videos multiple times and it's going to be super easy. Okay, sure. Okay, the old chapter, it's just like I can try to make a video on it and post it, but I don't know if I will be able to right now. But I can speak about them. Okay, let me speak about them quickly. So they're just the modes of transportation, okay? You have osmosis. You have passive transport, which is broken down into simple diffusion and facilitated diffusion, okay? And you also have active transport. Okay, so from the word active transport, active needs energy. It needs energy, why? Because we're going from a low concentration to a high concentration. What do we call this? We call this going against the concentration gradient. Okay? While in passive transport and in osmosis, you don't need energy, so no energy needed. No energy needed. And you go from high concentration to low concentration. And what do we call this also? We call this down a concentration gradient. Okay? Now osmosis is for what? Osmosis is for water. So it's the transport solely for water. Okay? And same thing, simple diffusion and facilitated are the only difference. Facilitated uses transport proteins, while simple diffusion does not need the help of proteins. Okay, so we have proteins that are used for transport. Now, one last thing also about transport, which you have to know, is isotonic, hypotonic, and hypertonic. Okay? Isotonic, hypotonic, and hypertonic. Isotonic, you have no net flow. Okay? What does no net flow mean? Does not mean water is not moving. Water is still moving in and out, but the net flow is zero. So that everything that's moving in, moving out, they're moving in and moving out at the same rate. That's why we say the net flow is zero. Okay? While if I talk about a hypertonic solution or a hypertonic solution, so who in the chat's gonna tell us what's a hypotonic solution? Low water potential, exactly. So what do we mean by low water potential? So look, the way I think about it, okay? Hyper means it's active, okay? So hyper, think about it, hyper, someone is hyper. If I put a cell in a hyper solution, water will leave. Think about it, hypertonic, water is leaving. While if I put it in a hypotonic solution, water will enter. Okay? Does that make sense? Or no? Let me know, ED YouTube. Does it make sense now? Okay, I think it makes sense. Hopefully it does. If you have any questions, just ask on the group and I'll try to reply. Okay, for the cardiac cycle, Omar, I have to leave right now. I'm really sorry. But check the video on YouTube. Skip to the part where I talk about it. And if you have any extra questions, just ask on the group and I'll also reply as soon as possible. Okay? But I have to close the live for today. Yesterday, and you missed a lot of important information. Next time, don't leave the live. Thank you guys all for joining in again. Throw some W's in the chat, don't forget. And guys, come on, let's grow the channel more, okay? So try your best, send it to your friends, send it to everyone you know, send it to your family. Let's hit 500 subscribers before the next periodic. Okay, that's the goal we have in mind. Let's all do it together. Thank you guys all for joining in. Best of luck on your exam. W's in the chat. See you soon and peace.